Did you know? The motion-based technology that would define the Nintendo Wii was pitched to, and turned down by, both Microsoft and Sony. Back in the late 80s, inventor Tom Quinn devised a concept for motion-based controls in a 3D space while flying his private airplane. In an interview with CVG, he stated, "I got to thinking how a motion controller could create a navigable three-dimensional space that we could use to move aircraft more effectively. It took more than 10 years to finally be awarded a patent on my motion control design idea, one that covered any physical motions in the real world that would translate to linear motions on a screen. That was in 1999, and when it came through, everything changed." Quinn's company, Gyration, now had a worldwide patent on what was considered the best gyrometer-based motion control technology at the time. Quinn's idea didn't take hold in aeronautics, but he felt it might be well applied to video games. In early 2001, Quinn's connections with Microsoft landed him an interview with their then CEO, Steve Ballmer, to whom he showed the pitch. Ballmer loved it. However, when Quinn pitched his motion controls to the Xbox team, they were staunchly opposed, apparently to the point of rudeness, and Microsoft turned down the opportunity. Their behavior was so notably poor that a Microsoft executive personally apologized to Quinn. Quinn and his team then turned their eyes on Japanese game development. As Sony appeared to be prevailing in the industry at the time, Quinn lined up a meeting with Ken Kutaragi, a man sometimes referred to as the father of PlayStation. According to Quinn, Kutaragi closed his eyes and kept them shut until the pitch was over, then inquired whether or not the technology could be produced for just 50 cents. As that would be impressively impossible, Sony turned down the offer as well. In September of 2001, the same month the GameCube launched in Japan, Quinn finally made his way to Nintendo to pitch his technology. Having recently restructured their corporate order, midway through the pitch, the Nintendo executives requested a moment to deliberate, then began a fervent discussion turned argument. Quinn's Japanese investor, who accompanied him to the meeting, explained that the group was polarized on the matter. According to Quinn, Chairman Atsushi Asada barked something and there was total silence. That was it. He decided to license our patents for motion control, as well as buy some of our company. After licensing out 2 of their patents, Gyration teamed up with Bridge Design to pitch a controller prototype commissioned by Nintendo. Nintendo instructed them to retain the GameCube's button layout and expressed a desire for one- or two-handed gaming. The two came up with what was referred to as the Gyropod, which is notably different from the current design. It features a nearly symmetrical design with the right handle being slightly longer and the button layout looking similar to that of the GameCube's. Notably, the center platform where the analog sticks are breaks away from the right handle. Eventually, the Wii Remote design would end up looking more like just that, a remote. The analog stick would be relegated to the nunchuck add-on, which bears striking resemblance to the center handle of the Nintendo 64's controller. While the gaming community at large passionately debated the efficacy of the Wii Remote as a controller, it definitely was different for the time. Unfortunately, it also got Nintendo in a fair bit of legal trouble. In spring of 2014, long-standing hardware and technology company Philips sued Nintendo over the infringement of 2 of its patents regarding motion controls, one for the Wii and its successor, and one for just the Wii U. Regarding the Wii, Philips claims the Wii Remote, nunchuck, and balance board devices all violated one of their patents, and that Nintendo did so knowingly. Judge Colin Burse of the UK High Court stated, "The common general knowledge did not include a device combining a physical motion sensor with a camera, and the reasons advanced by Nintendo for putting those 2 sensors together in one unit are unconvincing." To the opposite end, around the same time, Triton Tech of Texas LLC filed a suit against Nintendo for infringing on their patents as well. This lawsuit was regarding the use of Nintendo's motion sensor-based Motion Plus technology. The ruling of the suit deemed Triton's patent was invalid as it did not accurately describe a complete invention. The lawsuit was initially filed back in 2010. Around the same time, IA Labs filed suit against Nintendo for violating 2 of IA's patents with Wii Fit and Wii Fit Plus. IA Labs contended their patent for a computer interactive isometric exercise system that would measure a force applied by a user to the effector accurately describes the processes involved in Wii Fit. However, the courts ruled in favor of Nintendo. During a meeting with the Wii development team to discuss the Wii's development, Nintendo president Satoru Iwata told his team to make the Wii no thicker than a stack of 2 DVD cases put together. In general, the design and production goals for the Wii, then codenamed the Revolution, were very specific. The console would be, above all things, controlled by motion, so plenty of decisions were made with that in mind. For instance, since the sensor bar would have to be placed directly aligned with the TV, the console couldn't be too far away from it despite having wireless controllers. Thus, Nintendo wanted to keep the console small. They also wanted their 24-hour download service, Wii Connect 24, to be utilized for updates and downloads at any time, so the console was designed to operate in standby without the fan running and with minimal use of electricity. On the front of the console was a light which flashed blue whenever a new message was received. This flash was timed to match the call of the Japanese bush warbler, whose chirp can frequently be heard during Japanese spring and summertime. Even the look of the console itself, more glossy and modern than any of Nintendo's previous consoles, was a calculated strike. Since the console would be part of the Entertainment Center setup, it needed to be sleek. This is also why the stand functionality was designed directly into the shape of the console and marketed as such. All of these design choices, however, were what limited the system. The Wii was only roughly twice as powerful as its predecessor, the Nintendo GameCube. The concept of the Mii characters, which saw prolific use throughout the Wii's lifetime, and later the 3DS and Wii U systems, originated as far back as the Super Famicom. After the release of the Super Famicom disk drive, Shigeru Miyamoto had an idea for a game consisting of drawing faces using pre-drawn assets by mixing, matching, and arranging them as you saw fit. The game was fairly simple and included different eyes, mouth, face shapes, noses, and hair. The player would be able to port the faces into what was referred to as a scenario disc that would be coupled with the game, which allowed them to animate their faces. However, Miyamoto's peers at Nintendo didn't approve of the idea, confused as to how it could be an actual game. The project was shelved indefinitely. Years later, when the Nintendo 64 disc drive debuted, the project resurfaced as Talent Studio, part of the Mario Artist series, and it had been significantly restructured. The game was made available exclusively to members of the N64DD's RANNet network service. To entail the significance of the program, then Nintendo president Hiroshi Yamauchi would greet members of the service in the form of a Talent Studio animation. Players could import pictures of their faces into the game to apply to their own character. The game featured a large variety of clothing to dress up the characters, as well as a movie editor in which to show off those characters in animated bits. While this product did see a full release, Nintendo still wasn't sold on the concept. Talent Studios saw what appeared to be a successor called Stage Debut for the GameCube that would utilize the Game Boy Advance e-reader and Game Boy Advance's camera peripheral, the Game Eye. However, the Game Eye never released, and neither did Stage Debut. During the planning stages for the Wii, Miyamoto once again set out to find a way to bring this idea to fruition. While working on the project with his team, Iwata approached Miyamoto and informed him another team was working on a similar concept for a DS game. Upon seeing the project, Miyamoto jumped ship to work with the other team out of frustration over his team's inability to deliver after 2 decades of off and on work. The biggest point of contention was that creating these characters would be enjoyable, but without an accompanying gameplay component, only creative types would have much fun with the program. This project eventually became Mii Maker, the channel on the Wii which would be used for profile creation and allow users to implement their characters in games such as the Wii's killer app, Wii Sports. While this hasn't been officially confirmed, it's quite likely the animated talent show concept featuring the player's own custom characters, now called Miis, was implemented as one of the attractions in the 3DS game Tomodachi Life. Well, that's all for today, but before you go, we'd like you to vote on which Nintendo franchise you'd like us to cover more of in the future, Super Mario or The Legend of Zelda. You may do so by clicking on either annotation or by leaving a comment below. And if your favorite franchise just so happens to be Donkey Kong, I, Todd from Rated S Games, have made a video on Donkey Kong Country Returns for the Nintendo Wii. It's all about the sense of adventure that game gives off and how it goes about doing that. So if that is interesting to you, then I don't know, I guess don't watch it. What if I just say don't watch it? What if I do that? You gonna watch it? Can you please watch it? Is what I'm actually saying.